My Adoption is for all people touched by adoption in any way. We're going to dive into all aspects of the process with the hope of uniting and supporting our adoption community. Welcome to My Adoption. Today we have Courtney. How are you, Courtney?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So just to give you guys a little bit of information, my name is Caitlin. I'm a birth mother. I was on the last podcast, and this is Courtney. She is an adoptee, and she was the one who interviewed me. So today we have the awesome opportunity to hear her story, and we're super excited.
Awesome. Excited to be here.
Great. Awesome. So we'll just kind of dive right into it. So you're an adoptee, and as of right now, you're working for Adoption.com too, right?
Yep. I work in the content department, helping other people tell their stories and experiences on our website and on our social media as well.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, my first question for you is, do you ever remember being told you were adopted, or was it just kind of like part of your story from the get-go?
Yeah, so this is like the number one question I get from people when they learn that I was adopted. I was adopted as an infant, so I was like 3 days old when my parents picked me up. And I don't remember being told. Like, it was just kind of part of like our lives. And I know I had a few like books about adoption that were like little picture books that were really cute. And so we would read those pretty often, but my parents were really open about it. So it was always known that I was adopted.
That's perfect. That's great. And do you guys talk about it often? Did you guys talk about it often, like growing up? Was it something that you brought up like at the dinner table, or was it just kind of like, you know, the sky is blue, Courtney's adopted, you know, that sort of thing?
I mean, I've always been like weirdly open about it. I know some people like it's very private in their lives, and that's fine, but I'm assuming that I probably talked about it more than average just because I was really interested in it and I thought it was cool. Something my parents really tried to focus on being open with us about it. And I know they took a couple classes before adopting, my brother and I, about like communication and helping your adoptee, like just feeling like they can come talk to you about anything and never like keeping anything from them. So even though adoption is a heavy topic and like the circumstances that I was adopted under, like it's a lot for a little kid, like even a toddler to understand, but you know, they let me know things as I was mature enough to handle them. And they always told me like, if you ever have questions, then just come and ask us. So
that's really great. So you don't feel like those conversations were ever forced or awkward? They were just kind
Not at all. No.
That's great. I know that can be rare sometimes, you know, you talk to people who are adopted and it's like, oh, my mom told me when I was in my 20s, or I took a DNA test and realized, you know, and so that's really good because I feel like that gives a really good foundation and experience for you when it comes to adoption, because a lot of people have a negative connotation with adoption. And I think it begins when you're young because people are open. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, I feel like it totally shaped the direction my life went, like now working for Adoption.com and an adoption agency, because I have such a positive view about it. Like I know that it's not great for everyone, but I was able to take something that could have been really hard and make it good for other people.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And so my next question is, how did your family kind of embrace the subject of like your biological family? How did they interact with it? How did they talk about it?
Yeah, so I had a closed adoption, and that just means that after I was adopted and my adoption was finalized, we didn't have any contact with my biological family. I think we had a few letters from my birth mom that kind of explained why she placed me for adoption, but that was it as far as contact went. And my parents just always told me, like, if you ever want to find them, like wait until you're 18 and you're mature enough to handle it, and like you have a good enough understanding of like yourself and your identity, and then we'll help you with whatever you need. And I was lucky enough that like when that time did come, I was ready and curious. I think curious more than anything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to find them, and I was able to find them. And so now I guess we have an open adoption now that we are all like connected. So I have a really great relationship with her and with my birth dad, and like we spend time together, and it's really great. So we're able to like have a good open adoption relationship now.
That's awesome. Are you glad you waited till you were 18?
Oh, absolutely. Like, family is hard enough as it is to like triple your family overnight with so many more people. Like, it would have just been really hard and confusing as a kid. I know that like open adoption is really positive for children, and we're able to bridge those gaps even better nowadays. But I think for me in my situation, like, it was the best thing for me at the time.
That's awesome. I'm glad, because you hear people who resent others because they wanted to reach out sooner. So the fact that, you know, you're comfortable with how it turned out is really important.
Yeah.
So to kind of take a little bit of a switch, why did your parents choose to adopt?
Yeah, so my parents struggled with infertility for about 7 years before they went the adoption route. So they adopted my brother, and then 4 years later, he's from a different family, but 4 years later, they adopted me. So they just couldn't have kids on their own, and so they found us.
That's really cool. And I'm guessing, you know, you can't even tell the difference between like you and your brother. You just feel like siblings, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so my next question is, what did your parents do that made you feel, that had like the biggest impact in making you feel secure and confident and just proud of your adoption story?
Yeah, I think it's just that open communication. Like, they always encouraged me to ask questions. And I remember some Sunday afternoons, I would just sit with my mom in her room, and we would talk for hours about it and how I felt and how she felt. And I never felt like my mom struggled with it, because she was just so she was so open and like positive with everything, but was also very empathetic to like the challenges that I faced.
That's great. And is there anything that they didn't do that you wish they would have done that could have possibly made it easier for you or easier to navigate?
I don't think so. I feel like they did pretty well. They're awesome parents, and there's nothing that I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish things were this way or things were that way. Like, obviously adoption comes with a lot of baggage. Like, that's just the nature of adoption. But I feel like I got really lucky in how everyone handled it, and how everyone's like has an empathetic perspective on it.
That's great. And so when talking about adoption and adoptees, what are ways you think we can celebrate our children's adoptions and adoption journeys with them, while also, you know, not constantly placing that as like their identity, you know, because you want them to have their own identity. You want them to be their own person. You don't want them to be, I'm adopted and then I'm Courtney. You know, you're Courtney and something about you is that you're adopted. So how can we make sure that we embrace a child's adoption experience while not making it their key identity?
Yeah, totally. I think that this is something that happens really naturally. Even though like it is the firework that started your life or that happened later on in your life, like, you just kind of go on and live your life, and like you're gonna face things now and then, but I think just not dwelling on it too much. Like, you don't wake up and talk about, you know, one big event every single morning. You wake up and you live your life and you do the things that you love with the people that you love. And as you do that, you find yourself. And I think just focusing on people as people and not people as what they went through or what they're going through or what they might go through really helps with that. And I mean, it's kind of hard for me now because my job revolves around it. So it really is Courtney the adoption girl. But I think that helping children just be kids, be people, loving them through, you know, everything that they're going through, and being there for them when they need it, and letting them guide that relationship between them and their adoption stories is really helpful.
That's great. So did you ever have a time early on when you were a child that you didn't feel like you didn't belong because you knew you were adopted? Did you ever have an experience like that?
Kind of. I do remember being at like big family reunions. Like, I think we might be the only cousins who are adopted. I might have one or two other cousins who are adopted, but we were kind of the only ones that weren't like of the bloodline. And so when conversations like, oh, we all have this eye color, or we all have this nose because it's our family, I'd be like, well, what about my nose? Like, where did I come from? But that being said, like, my extended family is incredible. And like, they were all there when my adoption was finalized. They are so loving. And I've never felt like they treated me like anything other than family. So even though like they all share a nose and I have a different nose, like, you know, it was just something that I had to get through. And like, oh, one day I'll find who has my nose out there.
Yeah. Someone's got it. Someone's got it. That's awesome. So, you know, because you're adopted, what was the best trait your parents installed in your upbringing? Do you feel like it had to do with your adoption, or do you feel like, how do you feel about that?
I think it kind of evolved into that. My parents, they're so loving and so service oriented, and like, even if people are different from you or live different lives or make different choices, like, you can still love them even with all of those things. And that's something that, I mean, I never thought about that, like, oh, if someone's adopted, then you should just love them. Like, obviously, yeah. Adoptees are awesome. Yeah. Birth moms are awesome. Birth parents are awesome. Like, we're all great and we all have something to offer one another. And I think if we can just really work on finding ways to love others the best way that we can, despite those differences, like, that is what's going to change the world.
Yeah, I love that.
This episode on My Adoption is sponsored by the Gladney Center for Adoption. Gladney provides adoption and advocacy services for domestic infant adoption, international adoption, counseling, maternity services, and adoption support. A caseworker can help you learn more about your options, find financial support throughout your pregnancy, and make an adoption plan that works for you. To get started, visit Adoption.org or call 1-800-236-7898.
All right, so what is something that you would hope that all adopted parents would hear, listen to, know, you know, what's something that they can do to just kind of prepare to take on, you know, a child?
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's going to be different for everyone. And this is just based on my personal experience, but having really open communication with your child, no matter what age they are, no matter where they come from, like, and that's not shoving adoption down their throat every day, but letting them know, like, I love you, whatever you want to talk about, I'm always going to be here. I'm never going to judge you or feel like you don't love me if you talk about these things. Like, just having that compassion, not just with them, but like show that in your actions with others so that they know that you're someone safe who they can come talk to. And like, that is mom, that is dad, like, that is my parent who I can talk to about those things.
That's really great. So you feel like they really modeled the openness and communication really well within, just not with the like the subject of adoption, but with pretty much everything.
With everything, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think that's awesome. So to kind of take a step in a different direction, would you mind telling me a little bit about your first interaction with your birth mother? Because I'm sure that nervous, you know, you're nervous, it's kind of weird. So how did that go? How did it kind of start? Who reached out to who?
So when I was 18, I was like, it's go time, we're doing this. I was so excited. And like, you know, you hear a lot of different stories about things going south or whatever. And so, I mean, all those things went straight over my head. I was like, nah, it's gonna be great, we'll be fine. Probably because I had such a positive upbringing with it, but we used a legal intermediary to kind of initiate that communication. She was the one who went in, the legal intermediary. She went and opened the file to see if there was addresses or phone numbers for anyone. And luckily my birth mom, like, every time she moved, she updated the file because she was like, I'm gonna be there if she wants to find me. She is like such a mom's mom. So the information was right there, and like, it happened so fast. But I got a call one day saying, hey, I found your mom. This is her phone number and her name. She's gonna call you tomorrow. And I screamed. I was so excited.
Oh my goodness.
I was in the middle of a class in college when it happened. So everyone was like, she okay? Like, no, I'm gonna go meet my birth mom. So we talked on the phone, we Skyped, we did all the video calling, and then her husband was the one who reached out to me. He was like, hey, I can fly you out if you want to meet her. We were in different states at the time, and so he flew me out there. I got to meet her. It just so happened that my birth father lived right down the street with his new wife. So I was able, like, my birth mom introduced me to my birth dad, and it was really positive. I mean, even though we were strangers at the time, it felt like there's just something here that connects us, and it's really cool, and we're just gonna kind of like sit in that and celebrate it and figure out what it means. And it was really good. I'm very happy with it.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing your parents were supportive the whole way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. They just did they encourage you to reach out, or did they just know that?
They just kind of let it be. I mean, I was so excited about that. I knew it was going to happen. And at first I kind of tried to figure it out by myself, which as an 18-year-old trying to figure out the courts and hospital records and everything, I was so bad at it. And so my mom ended up being the one who was really like, I found the person, and now we're doing this, and now we're doing that, and this is what's going on. So I was like, thanks, Mom, you rock.
Thank you, I needed this. Yeah, because 18, literally trying to figure out anything is hard. So
exactly.
I can't imagine trying to figure out all the adult stuff that, you're now an adult, but you don't know how to quite adult yet.
Exactly. I'm adult enough to meet my biological family, but I can't figure out hospital records.
Yeah. So I'm really glad you had your parents then, because
I'm so grateful. Yeah, I really lucked out. I am so blessed with the circumstances that I had, and the people that were surrounding me. And it was really interesting to see people outside of my family be like, are you okay? Is everything fine? And we're like, yeah, we're great. We're doing awesome. We're taking one day at a time. And people were really supportive while also being very cautious of what could go wrong or right or anything. So yeah, it was a great experience overall.
That's awesome. And you mentioned that you still have a relationship with your birth family, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. How do you kind of navigate that? Do you guys talk all the time? Do you get visits? Are you able to go see each other?
Yeah, so luckily they now live in the same state as my parents. So whenever I go and visit home, I'm able to see them, or vice versa. And so I have 4 siblings. I have to count now because I have so many. I have little siblings in that family, and I'm able to go when my sisters just got married, and so me and my adoptive parents both were there when it happened. We were at the wedding, and we're able to be there for those big things when they happen. And we thank goodness for texting and social media. We're able to keep up with each other and have a great relationship. That is, without any hiccups, we're able to keep that door open.
That's really awesome. I know you mentioned Skype earlier, and I was like, I don't think kids even know what that is anymore.
Right?
How lucky are they to be able to just FaceTime and, things, it sounds weird, but things we didn't have when we were young.
Yeah.
And we're not that old.
Yeah.
So
totally.
the ability to have that communication, and how it's so easy to just send a quick text. I'm sure I think it's changed the idea of an open adoption as well, because it makes it so much easier to just reach out and to be able to make that instant connection.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad you have that, because I think it's so awesome that not only did, it turn out really well and you don't have really any horror stories with your adoption, but that it's just so easy to continue that really healthy and really beautiful relationship.
Yeah. And as great as my adoption was, and I feel everything about it was so positive, the entire road to get there, we always considered what the alternative would be. And I think that was really important, because not everyone has rainbows and butterflies as their life story. And not that my life has been rainbows and butterflies. I've experienced a lot of, challenges in my life, but I think it's how you grow from those challenges and how you move forward and what you do with it, and how you're able to keep your heart open to everything so that you can understand others and grow together in a community or as a family or whatever it is.
Yeah. And, that perfectly leads into my next question, which is, have you struggled with anything regarding adoption when it comes to your adoption, or just the idea of it?
Not exactly. I think one of the harder things that the adoption community faces is so many people have really strong opinions about what adoption is or isn't, or what it should or shouldn't be, just based on their experiences. And that's why I'm like, even though things were great for me, I know it's not great for everyone, or just because I experienced this bad thing doesn't mean that others aren't going to experience it. I think having empathy and like an open heart and an open mind to all the possibilities out there, and loving people through all those things and letting them make their own choices and find their own journeys and paths to whatever their goal is in life. I think that's so, so important. And if there's anything that I wanted the adoption community to embrace, it's that empathy and love for each other.
I love that. Yeah. And it's so true because I know, for example, my mom did not have a good adoption experience, but she was very supportive when I decided to place my child for adoption. And so I think it's that understanding that everyone's situation is different, and it is what you make it. Yeah. You could have grown up completely really mad at your birth mother, but instead you were 18 and couldn't wait to meet her, so it really is what you make it and what your parents make it, because they are really your biggest influence growing up. And so that positivity that they laid out, it really helped you. It really kind of set up your adoption journey. If they had been negative from the beginning, you probably would have felt that way too. So the fact that you had a positive, not just like intermediate family, but extended family as well, really set the tone for how your relationship would be with your birth family. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, are there any thoughts or actions that you can think of that, we could take as an adoption community that would help with adoption? Is there anything we can do to really kind of face the good and the bad while being positive throughout it?
Yeah, I think one of the best things, and this is my job, this is what I'm passionate about, is storytelling. Like, share your story, share your experiences in your own time and as you're comfortable, but as you share what you're going through and you invite others to share what they're going through, then we're able to make those connections and make those bonds. And what I think is really cool about adoption is, you're adopted into a family, but you become part of this even bigger family that is adoption. Like, whenever I meet an adoptee, we gush about the stories and the weird questions people ask us or whatever it is. And I'm sure you experience the same as a birth mom. But I think that's how we come together in love and unity, and we're able to cry with one another and celebrate with one another and do all those things together.
No, it's so true. I remember having that realization of, after I placed my son, was I'm not losing anyone. I'm gaining a whole new, a whole nother part of my family. And it's so true. It's like, there is moments where it's hard and you do feel the loss or you do feel the separation, but you have gained a whole new part of the family. So yeah, I think you said that perfectly.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that my adoptive mom said when I was going through the reunion process is like, love isn't divided just because we have more people, it's multiplied. Yeah. Like, that puts it perfectly. I love that. There's always more love to go around, and we can all just join together in that.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, is there anything else you would like to talk about today?
I don't think so. That kind of wraps it up.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. I'm so excited. You and I are really good friends, so it's really fun to be able to hear your story, because I don't think we've ever had a chance to really sit down and talk.
I know, we've been saving it for the people.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for joining us, and I'm really excited to start our third podcast next week. It'll be really
awesome. Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to My Adoption. To have your adoption experience featured, please email info@myadoption.com. If you're pregnant and considering adoption or looking for adoption support, call or text 1-800-236-7898.